This one isn't just a gear story. This is a fishing history story. And I don't use that word lightly. Think about the names that define modern bass fishing, like Brian Thrift and Seth Fighter, two of the most decorated tournament anglers of their generation. Now ask yourself, would their careers look the same without one single lure? I'm not sure they would, because sometimes one bait changes everything. That bait is the ChatterBait. And to mark the occasion, they've produced a documentary that tells the full story of how the ChatterBait went from a garage in South Carolina to the most influential lure in modern bass fishing. Here's Z-Man President Daniel Nussbaum talking about the beginning, not with the bait, but with the company, and how Z-Man decided it was time to stop being the best kept secret in the industry.
I'm Daniel Nussbaum, president of Z-Man Fishing Products. Z-Man's an offshoot of a manufacturing company that was around in the 80s, and they had a silicone production line where they made silicone tape that was used for things like pipe insulation or the lining on brake pads. And there was a guy there who was a bass fisherman, and he said, hey, if we color this silicone tape, if we add glitter to it, slit it into strands, we can make silicone skirts. And that's where the very first silicone skirts came from. When that company was sold around 1995, Mr. Jerry Zucker, the owner of that company at the time, founded Z-Man Fishing Products. He took the 5 or 6 employees that were manufacturing skirts, bought them the equipment and the building that they needed, and that's where Z-Man was born.
Now, that's a man who knows his story and tells it well. So here's where it gets really interesting. While Z-Man was building out their consumer brand around a little something called Elastec, a proprietary thermoplastic elastomer that they say is tougher and more buoyant and more lifelike than any soft plastic on the market, something completely separate was happening about an hour up the road in Rock Hill, South Carolina. A father and son, Ron Davis Sr., a lifelong tinkerer with a real background in research and development, and his son, Ron Jr. They were messing around with a concept that was kind of like a spinner bait, but not. See, a spinner bait uses rotating blades for flash and vibration, but what Ron Sr. invented was different. A flat hex-shaped blade attached directly to the front of a jig head that didn't rotate. It jackhammered, violent, fast, erratic, and absolutely irresistible to bass. That was the ChatterBait. Born in a garage, built by hand, and about to change everything. Here are Ron Sr. and Ron Jr. in their own words.
Well, if you take this little bait, which is a Walker Special, okay, that's a weighted blade with a hook. I knew early on, back in the late 50s, that that was a very effective tool. And I wanted to get that vibration onto something that was a whole lot more effective than this. And it ended up being a weighted hook with a blade instead of a weighted blade with a hook. But it just evolved into that. There's certain things you kept fooling and fooling. We were at the Saluda River down here that feeds Lake Murray. And I was back in the back of the boat. He was up there running the boat, and I was throwing this little old bait. I was catching them. I said, what man you fishing with? And that kind of got it started, I think. He said, dang, Dad, we can do something with that. You know, so he pushed me into saying, okay, let's try to put this thing on the market.
Y'all, a garage, rural South Carolina, a dad with a vision and a son who believed in it. That's the American dream with a hook in it. And here's the thing. Z-Man didn't just acquire the ChatterBait and put it on a shelf. They stewarded it. They built on it. More than 20 purpose-built bladed jig designs later, the ChatterBait jackhammer, developed with Japan's Evergreen International, became one of the most tournament-dominated lures ever made. This documentary tells all of it. The invention, the struggle, the breakthrough, Brian Thrift's win at Lake Okeechobee in 2006 that made the ChatterBait a household name overnight, all of it. And it's beautifully done. I genuinely think every serious angler and everyone who works in this industry should watch it, because it's not just about a lure. It's about what happens when invention meets vision meets perfect timing. You can find the full documentary right now if you go to thefishingwire.com. And if this is the kind of story that gets your blood pumping, and honestly, how could it not? Then you need to be signed up for our weekly newsletter. New products, breaking industry news, the stories behind the brands you love. It's free, it's fast, and it's the best 5 minutes of your morning. Head on over to thefishingwire.com and sign up today. You'll wonder how you ever kept up without it, because we bring you the biggest news from the fishing business every single day of the week.